Hi guys, and welcome back to Cat Talks. Today I am going to do the Booktube Newbie Tag because obviously I have started making Booktube videos and I thought it would be a good idea to introduce myself to all of you. So hi, I am Kat. I live in Sweden, which is a non-primarily English-speaking country, but luckily there are some English books around in the libraries and things like that. And yeah, let's get started. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? I actually started this channel to do study with me and writing vlogs, so I do a lot of writing and a lot of studying, but I also do a lot of reading. So when I discovered that Booktube existed, I obviously wanted to incorporate books into my content. I have always loved reading. I had a pretty long slump between the beginning of university and now, so about 7 years, where I didn't read pretty much anything except for like the occasional Robin Hobb. So I am excited to get back into reading properly, and yeah, Booktube is a way of keeping me motivated to do so. Question number 2. What are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? So obviously, I have no idea. I'm a writer, but quite a lot of the booktubers, quite a lot of the people on Booktube are also authors. I guess I can bring the perspective of someone who hasn't been reading for a while. I can also sing, but I probably won't. So, yeah. Can you imagine singing Booktube reviews? For this was the tale of two sisters, and they went on a journey. Yeah, no. Question number 3. What are you most excited about with this new channel? Well, let me tell you. I'm excited to kind of get involved in the Booktube community. So, as I said, I haven't been reading for a long time. Pretty much all of my friends stopped reading around the same time as me due to the pressures of life and university, and I mean, I was studying for something like 10 hours a day, if not more, outside of lectures, so I didn't really have the free time, and then I got into video games in a really big way, which sort of sucked up the remaining free time that I had. Then I moved countries to Sweden, and my partner doesn't read, so I have no one to gush about books with anymore now that I've started picking books up again, so I was hoping that you guys would fill the void in my life. Question number 4. Why do you love reading? I kind of think that one's a bit obvious. Everyone loves reading because it kind of transports them, it gets them out of this world and into another one. I also really love kind of like the feeling I get. It's kind of a way of making friends, even though they're technically not real. Especially like connecting with the authors and things like that can be so exciting. But yeah, I really enjoy kind of exploring the human condition through words. Question number 5 is, what series or book got you into reading? Now, I have absolutely no idea. I was reading since almost before I could walk. My grandfather would read to me every night before bed. I was reading really big, thick books about like dinosaur hunters in the Victorian ages when I was 7 or 10 or something. Like, I have been reading way before Harry Potter was published, and I have no idea what got me into properly like reading. I would say I guess Charlotte's Web was a really good book that got me started, as well as Black Beauty. Those are 2 English classics that my grandfather read to me, and we used to do all the voices and like the animal noises and stuff. And then I guess all of those books about like kids who were the children of divorce I really enjoyed, so like The Suitcase Kid, because I was the child of divorce and lived out of a suitcase, and I totally I just got that, yeah, I was so on the vibe for that. And then obviously later on I got into young adult fantasy when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, probably a bit young for young adult fantasy, but when I was 11 I was fully into young adult fantasy, and when I was 12 I was also reading adult fantasies, like Bitten and Stolen and that series, Dead Until Dawn, that series. Anything of urban fantasy or fantasy. And then after that I discovered manga, so I've read quite a few mangas. I wouldn't say they're my favourite genre, but I have read a lot of them. I used to be able to read one in an hour, which drove my dad potty because they cost the same as a normal book, which used to at least take me a day. But yes, I was one of those kids who literally would have lived at the library if they could, and I'm probably one of those adults who would live at the library if they could too. Question number 6. What questions would you ask your favourite booktubers? So I'd definitely be looking for tips on lighting and editing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't make myself aesthetically pleasing. My channel isn't aesthetically pleasing. There is a guitar here for no reason except for to cover up the plug behind it because it looked ugly. We're getting curtains soon, but that's not really relevant. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess, yeah, my main questions would be around the technicalities, like how do you spend your time? How the hell do you have time to read 18 books in a month while you're also making like videos 3 times a week? And how, yeah, that's about it really. How do you manage your time? How how do you make time for reading amongst all the other responsibilities that we have as adults, and how do you do the technical things like editing and stuff like that. Question number 7. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I think keeping up with my reading will be one of the hardest things for me to overcome. So I am a programmer by trade, so I have a day job, obviously 40 hours a week or more, and I'm just starting a new job in June. I'm starting a new job in June. So there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in between now and probably August or September, while I ramp down from this one and work crazy hours in overtime to get that finished, and then ramp up in the other one and work crazy hours in overtime to get up to speed. I'm also starting a business with my friend. It is an online commerce business, or e-commerce, and yeah, that's also taking up a lot of my time. And then obviously I write. I'm writing, as you know, I write fan fiction, and I'm recently thinking about starting a serial fiction piece on an online platform, a bit like Wattpad, but not Wattpad. Maybe Wattpad, but not one of the forefront concerns. And some short story competitions, and also reading, and yeah, the list goes on and on and on. However, so I think just having the free time to like remember to record when the lighting's good in this apartment, because you'll notice when I do my reading vlogs, the like LEDs make wavy lines on the wall for some reason. I don't know what that's about. Also, I used to be addicted to Diet Coke. I moved over to Coke Zero, and now I only have one a day. I don't know what the flavour, I don't know what the difference is. Question number 8, when did you start reading? So I already touched on this. I have been reading since I was like a tiny baby. I was ridiculously obsessed with books. I think it's because it was, like I said, I lived in a suitcase, and it was a lot easier to bring a book than to bring a console, especially back then. And it was easy to bring a book as well, rather than other media, because they kind of all came together in a nice little package. And especially when it was a library book, it couldn't be destroyed by jealousy. Also, I think reading kind of like comes with a stigma attached to it, that your parents are like, they don't really want to interrupt you, whereas watching TV or playing video games and things like that didn't. And also I had a really difficult time fitting in with the kids in particularly one of my parents' neighbourhoods, because if you can't tell, I talk posh, and the kids didn't like that very much. So books were my escape. But I think I've just kind of like was born with the genes to like books. I've just always loved books. Books are just the best. Next question. Where do you read? I read everywhere, so especially on my phone. Now that I'm not living in the UK, I rely a lot on Amazon and Kindle. So when I'm reading on my phone, I read anywhere. Daily, I read on the bus home. I try and read for 15 minutes before I start working on the startup, which I also do on the bus, which is also where I write. So on the way to work, I write on the bus, and then I spend 15 minutes chatting with my friend. And on the way home, I read for 15 minutes, and then I work on the startup for the other 45 minutes. It isn't too bad. But yeah, that's when I read. And then on the weekends I read, usually on the couch or on the floor. I really like lying on the floor, especially when it's carpet for some reason, and just like reading like this. But it's as I've gotten older, I've obviously comes with some aches and pains. That's just what happens when you get old. So if I read too much on my front or do anything where I'm in that position, like right on the keyboard and stuff, I get strains in my neck, particularly on the left hand side. So I try not to do that. I try and read sitting up. I can't read in bed. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, you read on the side or above your head? I used to read above my head, and then I used to drop books on my head as I was falling asleep. So also I try not to read in bed, because if I read in bed then I don't sleep, and I really like keeping the bedroom sacred for sleeping. What kind of books do you like to read? So obviously I'm on Booktube, so obviously I like young adult fantasy. That comes without a question. No, I'm joking, but I do like fantasy. I really enjoy kind of like the political dramas of fantasy, so when they get really into like the nitty gritty, like someone's betraying someone else and you don't know why, and it's all kind of like up in the air and you're trying to guess. I also really just enjoy fantasy that's very character driven, but that has a really nice tight plot. So yeah, I would say I probably am mostly a fantasy reader. I don't read very much sci-fi, although I am planning on reading Illuminae. And I also read contemporary, so I read kind of widely, especially now that I'm not in the UK. I don't have access to the same like books that I had as a kid, the same wealth of books that anyone in the English-speaking country has access to. So because of this limited supply, I am branching out into all sorts of genres that I've never read before. I've also read some true crime. I don't really like the true crime that I have read, but that's just because of the writing styles, not because of the genre or anything like that. It's just that I have obviously chosen badly in my writing styles. And that is the end of the question. If you're watching this still, drop a comment down below to say hi, and so I can get to know you, and I hope you guys have an absolutely amazing week, and I will see you next week. Bye, ciao. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter @CatherineTalks and on Instagram @CatTalksWriting. you.